Everybody, welcome back to the How to Podcast series. When you listen to podcasts on a regular basis, you come across some really fun podcasts to listen to. And I've listened to this podcast. It's great. It's Pod Talk, and Craig is here. He has other shows as well, but Pod Talk is really a fun podcast, great interviews, and it's in the thing that I do all the time, which makes me happy. So to have that person show up on your screen after you've been listening to so many episodes is a joy for me as a listener, as a community member for Craig. So I'm excited about this. We're going to be talking about podcasting and a lot of great things. You get a lot of knowledge from this guy. He knows what he's doing. Craig, welcome to the show. Glad to have you on the show.
Thanks so much. I always have the urge to be like, oh, wait, I'm in the wrong place. Sorry. No, I don't know anything about podcasting. But yeah, thanks for reaching out. As I said before we hit record, I really appreciate. I don't put a lot of like signage up, like have me on your show. I just kind of on the download, and I appreciated you reached out and we chatted a little bit. So it's always fun to see people who are running podcasts and then they're interested enough to actually track me down and ask me a question, and then I'm like, oh yes, please, I would love to do that.
Right. Okay, tell us about your shows, because there's more than one. I feel akin to you. Right?
Yeah,
I feel akin to you.
This is the part where I go, hi, I'm Craig. I have a podcasting problem. I don't mean to diminish the Alcoholics Anonymous thing, but like it's a problem. So I currently have 4 shows, one of which I've kind of parked. Well, you've got like 9, so you shouldn't be stop throwing rocks. Okay. The one of them that I parked is really total like nerd fest. It's really about conversation. So I'm just not going to bother talking about that one. That one's called Open and Curious. It still exists, but it's paused. So I have 3 active shows. One of them is called Little Box of Quotes. And just for fun, I think in like 2020, I was helping coach a podcasting course, and I thought, what would happen if you made a daily podcast show that was just me saying hello and reading a quote? I have a huge collection of quotes. And didn't tell anybody. Put it in the directories, but don't tell a soul that you made a show.
I love it. I love it.
Well, the answer is it dwarfs everything else that I do. It gets like 150 downloads a day. It does like 900 unique listeners. It's at like 1,700 episodes or so. Like it's been going forever. But it taught me how to batch work and how to like get everything organized. So that one's super fun. But it's like a toy, but I love it. It's this great little thing. That's called Little Box of Quotes. So the one that I've done the longest, that I think the most number of people actually know me for, is called Movers Mindset. And that podcast started during my personal journey. When I turned like 40, I was rediscovering movement, like being outside, running and jumping and playing. Activities called parkour, if people have heard of it. I fell in, no pun intended, with a whole bunch of interesting people. And I'm the guy who just like, ADD, I cross the street. Oh, what's over there? I go ask questions. So I found myself having really cool conversations. And then one day somebody literally walking behind me and someone else said, you should record that. I would listen to that show. So that's Movers Mindset. I talk to movement enthusiasts to find out who they are, what they do, why they do it. And the one that you were praising, thank you very much, I like it too, is called Pod Talk. And it's just me talking to podcasters, usually independent podcasters, but every once in a while I hit a pro. Independent podcasters about whatever the heck we want to talk about. And it can be process, it can be AI. Just listen to I think it was your most recent episode about AI, and I was just like yesing along the whole way. So it can be AI, it can be how to do conversations, how to do interviews, how to do guest research. But really all of my shows are just, I got too many ideas and I don't know when to stop, and I just push buttons and, like 80-20. How do I get this out the door and, ship it?
Yeah. Okay, so I want to bring up something that happened in real time. I want to know how you did it, because I was the one on the person to respond. Okay, and that's how we made this happen. So how do you encourage your listeners to respond to your show or reach out? Because it worked, I'm telling you, because I responded as a listener.
Awesome.
So how are you doing it? Because I think that's a lot of things that a lot of podcasters I talk to struggle with. They're like, how do I get somebody to raise their hand and say, Craig, I listened to your show? I'm like, how did you do it?
Okay, before I answer the question, what was the first action you took? Because I just want to know, like, did you click in a show note to the website, or did you lurk me on LinkedIn, or like, how did you, because I know you messaged me on LinkedIn, but I'm like, do you remember what the first thing you did was? Because before I answer the question.
Oh, I listened first. So I'm always searching, right? And then I found the show, and then I think I went, to LinkedIn from there.
Went to LinkedIn and searched for my name?
Yeah.
Yeah, just curious. Because the answer to your question is, I don't do anything. I literally do nothing. You're looking for things you're looking for things to argue about. I was like, I deleted all the work that prevented me from shipping the show. because I'm just like a one-man maniac. And I personally, this is not a critique of other shows, but for me personally, I cringe when I hear baked in intros and outros that are stale. So like part of one of my shows, I had like an ask. I was like, oh, I had a community for the other show, and the community is gone. And I'm like, oh, and I got like 80 episodes that have this audio baked in, and I'm not going back to edit. So I'm always worried about like, oh, I want it to be perfect. So for Pod Talk, I literally don't say anything, dude. I just go, hello, I'm Craig Constantine. Welcome to Pod Talk. Short conversations with podcast creators, and because I like to take a scenic route. And if the show ends, and we say like, thanks, bye. I'm like, there's nothing. You literally did it on your own. And I'll tell you, I get not a lot, maybe 4 a year. I get people who respond, but you know what happens? It's people like you who really, really actually are interested. I mean, I get all the usual spam from people harvesting from our RSS feeds. The answer to your question is I don't do anything on any of my shows. I just ship it, and then I make sure that there's a link to a website or a web page, and my name is on it, and my name's unique enough that if you search, people find me. So yeah.
Okay, everybody, we're done here then. The show's over.
Yeah.
We have no hacks for
I do
you.
a little bit of social media, but mostly I do social media like because of the peer pressure. I feel peer pressure, so I should go to Instagram. Sorry.
Okay. Well, I'm telling you it works because I think that's probably why I responded, to be quite honest, because I was curious because there wasn't all the traditional trappings around.
Yeah, there's no
what
do you call it? There's nothing in the end.
No.
Yeah, there's no. I would love to have it like, oh, and this show is brought to you by, and I want to name people. For a while, Movers Mindset, I had a team of people that were paid, and that was some of the greatest episodes I ever did because I got a chance to talk to people like before and after, and I had a production assistant, and we were traveling and doing episodes, and that's magical. But we actually did a 50th episode where we had the whole team on mic, and it was basically them dogpiling on me. So it's super fun when you get to say, and this episode was edited by Miguel Chero, and all these different people work on it. So I wish I could do that. I would love to have shout outs at the end of the shows, but it's just me. It's just crazy Craig.
Right.
Open up Hindenburg. Yeah.
And off you go.
Off you go. That's another thing I don't do. I don't edit. I don't edit my shows either. I know you're like, wait, that's what I do for a living. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sometimes some Pod Talk episodes, I'm done 30 minutes, 45 minutes, hit stop, check with the guest. Was this okay? Did you love it? And then 35 minutes later, it's shipped, published, social media on it. It's all done. It's nuts. But I can talk about why and how I do that. But let me give you the baton back here.
Well, no. I'm giving right back to you the why and the how.
Why and the how.
The reason I'm asking, Craig, is because there's so much noise in podcasting right now about the 45 things you have to do after you record your episode.
Oh,
where people are like, "What? I already have a full-time job. I don't need this. I don't need to make my week 80 hours with a podcast. So if I have to do 45 other steps, like all the gurus are saying, then I'm not going to do it."
Yeah,
and I think that's keeping people out, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it keeps people out. It scares people away. I don't travel a ton, but I travel enough, and I run into people, and sometimes people recognize my voice, which is a very weird experience when somebody goes, "Oh, that Craig," and they ask me, "Oh, I want to start a podcast," and I literally go, "Don't do it." And they look at me like I'm whacked. And then I go, and they're like, huh? And I'm like, because if I say don't do it and it scares you off, you would never make it. Like there is a bit of a learning curve and there's a bit of work to do. But you're right about the 45-point list of things you have to do. That's all BS. Right. What happened to me was I'm a checklist guy. Process, like I am process oriented. And I think that's super important. You have a bunch of cool episodes. People should scroll back and look. You have a bunch of cool episodes way back about process, and process is the magic sauce. So if you think anything I'm doing is work, if anybody listening thinks anything I'm doing is working well, it's because of process. What happened was I would hit stop on an episode and then I would get stuck. I'd like, next morning I get up and I have a piece of paper and it's like, oh, I really don't want to send it out. And then I get to the thing and then, oh crap. And I got to write the intro and then I got to do the tracking. And then it'd be like 3 days would go by, 4 days would go by. And then I'd be like, wait. And I'd listen to the conversation, the raw wave, and I'd be like, this was awesome. Like when you do a show, you only get like half of it. You miss the other half because you're doing the show. I would listen to the conversation and I'd be like, I'd like want to slap my headphones off and kick myself. Like you have to ship this, Craig. You can't keep it. It's too precious. So then I went, okay, what am I stuck on? What am I literally stuck on? I'm like, I don't want to take out the ums and ahs and so's and the blah, blah, blah. So what I did was I went, blemishes. I'm shipping like it's good enough. Personally, the episodes that I think have almost not been published, 'cause I'm like, this one's kind of a stinker. I've had people tell me that was their favorite episode. So I actually have no clue what's good. So I'm taking my decision taste out of it. I don't know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing, but I don't know like whether or not to press ship. I always ship them unless the guest doesn't like them. And I went and I started looking. I'm like, well, I talk too much, as you can tell. I talk too much. So I began trying to change that. Instead of fixing it in post-production, like, Craig, shut up.
Yeah.
I say so often that my team once threatened to make a holiday supercut. So, of just me saying so over and over. And that was when I went, all right, I'm going to try and step on that. So I went down the rabbit hole. How do you end a conversation so that it's awesome? Like, because if you knew how to do that, you wouldn't have to post, produce, and edit. It would. Right. So the ending of every Pod Talk show, if you thought the endings were good, that's literally the ending. That's literally the last thing we said. It's the beginning, unless there's like a fire truck where somebody sneezes. I don't edit anything out. The conversations, how long should they be? I have an answer for that, but like, how long should they be? I don't know. Do 100 and experiment with that. Like, because the answer depends on your show. But for me, it's about 40 minutes, which is 2 20-minute conversational cicades. I could talk forever. But to like zoom out, I looked at all the things that I didn't want to do. And I went, well, what if I just didn't do that part? What if I just skipped that part? What if I just, I don't like doing voice sounds. What if I'm standing? I don't know, you're going to publish the video on this. I'm standing up, I'm Italian. If I sit down, my energy level kind of, because now I can't move. So I'm just like, oh no, I'm going to stand here in front of the thing. People watching get to see me. I'm going to stand in front of the thing and I'm going to be emphatic and guests smile. Like, I just don't do the stuff I don't want to do. Like, because it's not a job. If it was a job, then you got to do what the boss says. But okay, back to you.
Wow, permission. That's permission you just gave us,
No,
Craig.
why did I just say permission?
I like that. That's good. Well, the thing is, like, again, I think when I talk to podcasters who are on the journey of starting a show and they get into a Facebook group room and they say something like, the best mic.
Run away.
What hosting site should I be? Should I do video? What camera should I have? They get piled on by all of these people, some well-meaning, some have an affiliate link. We can let you decide which one is which, but they get piled on by all these people who are like, do this, and it's like a bunch of seagulls, like mine. And I just sit back and go, oh, if that's the introductory path to podcasting, I wouldn't even start one. I would never even start one.
Yeah.
I'd be like, forget this. Like,
that's not how I started.
You guys can't even agree.
Yeah.
You guys can't agree, right? No.
Oh, yeah. Amen. Once more, louder for those in the back who can't hear us over the seagulls. You're spot on. And what I'm trying to think of is like, was that in the thing, or we were talking about a book before we started, and the idea of, I'll put the book in, I'll let you do this.
Lean Learning by Pat Flynn. Lean Learning, everyone. Yes.
And we were talking about just in time, like if you're selling eggs, don't buy a year's worth of eggs. You won't sell, buy a week's worth and then get more just when you need them. The just in time learning thing that's how I do everything. So podcasting was easy for me to start because I don't know, I do everything that way. Like I just start and then read I call them corrections. Read the corrections on the IKEA furniture later.
Yeah,
that's how I started podcasting. And these days with current technology, you can really succeed without you don't have to like take the whole furniture set apart. You're like, oh, we can fix that.
Yeah. It's an open door for people to get in, but I find too the other part of it is people have this technology desire. I want to know and get the best of everything before I start.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, what are you going to talk about on your show? I don't know.
That's way harder too.
It's like, wait a minute. I think you might need to figure that out too.
Yeah.
That's just as important maybe as everything else.
I think that's if you say, as you did, that you like any of my shows, it's the DNA of the thing. Like people have asked, I still say like a lot. People have asked me, how do you like tell me how to or show me how, and then I try to explain it, and then just they do that RCA Victor dog thing, where they're like, just tip their head and look at me like, what? And then I realize, I don't actually understand this magic trick. So there's definitely some people for whom it's going to be much easier because the way that certain people think or follow threads. That's going to be more interesting for other people to listen to. And you probably have to work harder if it's not, but I still think you can do it. Sometimes I talk about when people ask me, they usually ask me one question, then they back away. But sometimes people ask me, how do you ask questions? So I do conversations, what I call it. I don't do interviews, I do conversations because I like to think of myself as a host. I actually have house guests, so I'm a host, and these are my guests, and I do things like show them how to use the washing machine or give them the Wi-Fi password. That's what a host would do. What would a podcast host do? I rented a flat in London at one point, and as a podcast guest, I rearranged the room, and I also went out on a little reconnoiter and found the coffee shop, and all these things that I thought my guests might want, and I checked the bathroom and stuff like that. Anyway, I'm off on a tangent. When I'm talking to people, I learned to relax and lean into, I talk about salience. Your mind, everybody's mind, is really great at salience, like snake, or rotten tree. You're not going to miss that. It's really important to you. It's wired in. So I encourage people to pick two. So if you're talking to someone and you're thinking about, I like to talk about cheese. You're thinking about cheese, and all of a sudden Dave says something, and then I think about, I don't know, something completely different. The space station. They're related. People resist the urge to connect those dots. I'm like, oh no, if your brain says these two things are connected, no, that's your next question. And people go, oh, how are you going to turn cheese and a space station into a question? It's really easy. Hey Dave, do you think Swiss cheese and the space station are related? You just ask it like it's a thing. It doesn't always, sometimes they go, that's crazy. And then they always have another idea. The urge that people have that I see to get the questions right or to do the things correctly, it's not so important. When you talk to your friend, it's not like, okay, and then I'm going to ask you a grammatically perfect question which follows. But it's like, no, you're just talking. No. But anyway.
Yeah. And I think as a listener, it's more engaging for a listener to feel like it's not overly scripted as well. Yeah. I've had people all the time ask me, Dave, I'm coming on your show. I need all the questions in advance. And I'm like, well, first of all, I don't know the questions.
Yeah, right.
My sheet's blank here in front of me. I don't have anything in front of me. So I don't even know what it is. And you're going to say something that's going to make me follow the conversation. So,
right.
Because when I was listening early on, Craig, to other shows, I'd hear somebody interview somebody. They'd ask them this question. They got a great answer from the guest. And at the end of the answer, the guest said something like, and that's the day my car went off the cliff and I almost died. Right?
That's right. And stop the bus. We're going there.
And the host is like, nope. Okay, question number 2.
Yeah, right.
What's your favorite color?
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute. What? Yeah. And never even acknowledged that there was an answer to the first question. And I'm like, I want to do it differently. I want it to feel like it's something that's happening in real time because there's going to be somebody listening to this in the future.
Yeah.
Right. And the interesting comment I got back on my Living the Next Chapter, my author podcast, was I had a listener reach out and they said, the moment I had a question for you and Craig, you asked the question. How did you know to ask that question in that interview? Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I recorded it 4 months ago.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
That was just what came to mind. Right.
What a connection point, though, for the audience to feel like they're here in the room.
Yeah.
So one of the things I always say to my guests in a pre-chat is imagine there's one more person here and they're more important than you and I combined.
Yeah.
Without them, this is really no point to this. It's great to meet you and I love having a conversation. But if we don't bring that person in here right now and make them feel like the most valuable person in the conversation, then it's not going to serve you as a guest. You're not going to sell books. You're not going to sell courses, whatever you're going to do in life. Without that person here, right, you got to acknowledge them. So I like to picture a football game, baseball, whatever you got, and the stands are filled with faceless, nameless people. And then all the activities out on the field. Imagine bringing one of those fans out of the stands and not just upgrading their seats.
Yeah, you're going to stand next to the coach.
Bring them onto the field with the players. Do that in your interviews. Bring that person that's listening that you don't even acknowledge. They're here, but they're somewhere. And bring them into the conversation, right? I love when my guest turns their attention away from me and turns their attention to the person listening and going, I know you're listening to my conversation right now with Craig. You got to check out this podcast. You guys are just amazing. And you're going to learn this, and this. And bring that person into the conversation. It's a great way to build that bond, I think, with our listener.
I mentioned earlier when I was talking about Mover's Mindset, I mentioned working with someone who actually traveled with me. And, we got to be really good friends, like planes, trains, all kinds of stuff. But that person used to sit in, so there was literally a third person in the room. And it really changed the dynamic because she wouldn't, unless something really wacky went off the rails, she wouldn't ever say anything, but she was always sitting there. And I've heard her tell this, like stories about those. She's like, that was so cool to get there, to get to sit there and actually listen, like to be in the moment. So even when people are only present via audio, it's a space that's really, really neat to be that listener. It really is interesting.
All right. So with all of your episodes, like
All
1,700 plus for a little box of quotes, that's amazing. As you've been going through your podcast journey, Craig, what are you learning? What are you still learning as well as a podcaster?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, snarky answer first. I'm nuts.
Good.
There's something wrong with me. I'm sorry. I keep learning that lesson over and over and over. And I try to be honest. So that's actually kind of a real answer. I try to be honest with myself. So if I have like a bad day, I'm like, well, maybe you shouldn't have done 3 podcasts in one day. Duh. Go change your Calendly setup. Like what's a cadence? What's a pace? I can do a 3 hours physically standing call, but my guests just like their brain, like, okay, how long should this show really be? So for me, like really being honest about learning what can I do, or like I got sick in 2024 and it was like, okay, I need to cancel a bunch of, and it was like, okay, I'm going to be sick. Like, all right. Not like I'm going to throw up on camera, but like I can't do these. So I had to like cancel like 7 scheduled podcasts. And as soon as I realized I was going to be, it was like, no, the right thing to do is to tell people I can't do it, rather than showing up for my listeners like, oh, okay, I'm feeling ill. So for me, I keep relearning the lesson that I can really bite off more than I can chew. I can be too crazy about it. I need to not fight, but like let go of the false urgency of like, oh, I got to do this thing and I got to shoot it. So just calm down, Craig. It's just a podcast. Just do the ones you can and move on. I've learned a ton, technology-wise. None of that's interesting. I've learned a ton about what I think the right way to do conversations are with people in general. Not just in recorded, because recorded conversations are a whole strange zebra, subset of horse. Regular conversations are much easier to do well, I think. But I don't know if you want to if you throw me a more specific lead, I could go, or you could just move on if that's boring.
No. What about as far as what you like as a listener, as a podcast, and then maybe how you, maybe some of that finds its way into your own show?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness. So I started listening. I was actually not a heavy podcast consumer. I started a podcast. There was a show that I was listening to, I'm not going to name names, that I thought sucked horribly. And I went, oh man, I could do better than that. Little did I know how hard it was to do well.
If it was my show, you could just tell me right now, Craig,
No, it was not your show. No, it's not your show. Nobody will ever guess what show it was. But I listened to the show and I went, seriously, I could do that. Turns out, no, it's actually hard. But once I started trying to podcast, I was like, okay, I'm going to try and listen to like literally thousands of episodes. And I was listening to them at high speed. And the first thing I did was I said, I'm going to talk to people. And I've had up to 3 guests at once. Like when you get more than 2 people on a mic as your guest, 3 people on a mic, especially when they know each other well, it can be really fun. Husbands and wives.
Ooh.
Oh, they're a ton of fun. You ask them a question like, well, how did you guys meet? And like the husband will glance at the wife, like, and the wife will look back and then the husband will leave on the sword to tell the story. Like, it's great. Anyway.
Yeah.
But I started listening to, I went, who are the shows that are supposed to be good, right? So like Tim Ferriss, Cal Fussman, track down like Seth Godin and Stephen Pressfield. And, these people are opinionated and maybe you don't like the way they write or whatever, but just like go listen to the people who've done a lot of these episodes. To see how it's supposed to be done, because I'm a big believer in figure out how you should do it, and then you're free to break the rules and do whatever you like. Maybe not great advice for day one podcast because you can spend a lot of hours listening, but that's what I did. I went and listened to a ton of shows. These days, I don't listen to any of those shows anymore, not because I don't love them, but because I'm only awake so many hours a day. Mm-hmm. These days, I'm all listening to shows that are from people that I know, and there are a couple exceptions. There's a philosophy podcast that I just can't get enough of. But I love and I always see it coming, but you hit play and the person that who you've maybe even met in real life, like an actual friend who does their show on Wednesdays, and you're like, oh yes, it's Rick, and I'm out usually I'm walking. I don't drive much, but I'm out walking, and then I have Rick in my ears, or I have Vivian in my ears, or like whoever it is. Yeah. And some shows are the ones that I love are very just like, hey, it's me. I'm talking about my show. Thanks, bye. They're real stripped down. I call it street rods. They're just a racing car. And some of them are. I listen to some of these shows and I'm just like, dude, you like are hitting it out. And then I have to email them. Like I mail them like every week. That was awesome. So I really love like knowing the persons who are making the thing. I'm not as enamored anymore by. Tim Ferriss still does great episodes, but I see them come up and I'm just like, But I also have a weird way of following shows. I don't know. I literally could talk forever.
About this.
My weird way of following shows, right? So everybody listening knows open podcasts are powered by RSS. If you don't, go look it up. So I've been an RSS reader user since before they invented I come from pre-web days.
Yeah.
I've been using RSS readers since the dawn of time. And I take all of the shows that I maybe kind of might want to someday maybe listen to, like Tim Ferriss and all the big names, and I put the RSS feeds in my RSS reader along with all my websites that I want to follow. So I have a whole folder called podcasts. I open it up and it's like, there's 70 new shows today. And I go, yeah, mark them all red. So they're not in my podcast player because otherwise, how do you follow? Because if you follow 70 shows, you get hammered. And you're never going to remember to touch them and look at their latest episodes. I just load them in my RSS reader as if it's RSS. And most shows, some of the big ones actually don't. Most shows have readable episode notes. And then when I see, that show with the person that I really like has a guest that I have to hear. Oh, yeah. And then I go to the player and I add just that one episode. That's how I keep the monster at bay. Then my friends I follow. So.
There you go. Well, that's a good filter. I like that.
I've never met anybody else who does that. Nobody does that. I'm like, why not? They're just RSS feeds. Stick them in your RSS reader.
There you go. Well, I think that's something that doesn't get talked enough about. I think a lot of the new people coming to podcasting don't even know what an RSS feed is.
Yeah, and I think that's good. I think that's good.
Yeah.
Definition of a podcast is the host can say, wherever you listen to your podcast, that's the definition of podcast. Because in order for that to be the case, it has to have an RSS feed and all the tech has to work the way it should. But yeah, what's the definition of a podcast? Listen to this wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I had Rob Greenlee on yesterday, one of the old sages of podcasting. I had a few people on. I had Bob Lament, who does podcasting as a blue cat. It's really interesting. He was one of the 50 podcasts loaded to iTunes when iTunes started podcasting. So some really good history. I think that's the one thing I think new podcasters don't appreciate is how hard it was to podcast back when it started compared to how easy it is now. Right? And I think there's a little loss. I think some of the old school podcasters get a little grumpy when how easy it is today and how hard it was for them as pioneers in the space to get us to this point. I still think we need to honor them because we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them in the way that we are today. And it wouldn't be as easy if it hadn't have been for them. So I do like listening to them for some perspective. But at the same time, I'm so excited that you can start a podcast today and be online on Apple, on Spotify within a few hours. Bang. You're out there with everyone else, right next to those
just
shows
as playable as the monsters.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't do that in radio.
No. Go apply for your FCC license. And I don't know. There's you have to put what do you call it? A bond. I think there's a really big bond you have to put up. So if you actually say at F-bomb, it's a license. I was like, oh, really? Limited spectrum.
Right. I can't get my movie on Netflix as easy.
Yeah.
As I can get a podcast up. I can't write a song and be on Spotify with music with all the other Spotify people.
Yeah.
I can't do it as easy, right? So podcasting has this ability to put you right next to the podcast you love. And all it takes is for you to start, really. Right?
See, two things popped to mind. I just thought, there is a service that I can't think of. I don't get any money from it. And I don't want to say the wrong name, so maybe I'll be able to remember it, or maybe you know which one I'm talking about. There's a service which you tell it your show's name, and I don't know how it does it. It finds other shows that are similar, and it gives you like this fancy schmancy, rotatable, three-dimensional, whatever. But it gives you like the neighborhood around your show.
Oh.
And it lets you go, like for me, it lets me go see like, well, what are those other shows doing? Like if you think I'm like those shows, and then, maybe they're all doing X or Y. And I thought that was a neat way to explore the podcast space, to not just like searching for keywords. But I can't think of the name of the show, and I don't want to open up my web browser and search while we're talking.
We'll find it. We'll grab it and throw it in the link in the show notes is what we do. One thing I've been trying lately is Mopod, MOWPOD. And for Mopod, it gives you your rankings for all the Apple players around the world, which is quite interesting. And you can also then compare yourself to some other shows if you want to see how you're doing to other podcasts, which is interesting. But it gives you kind of an idea of kind of their cadence, like when they're releasing episodes, if that's important to you.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. Like what their cadences are. I started using maybe 2 years ago. I started using OP3, the Open Podcast. Okay, what's the P stand for? There's Open Podcasting Prefix.
Yeah.
OP, I can't
People can see what you're doing, right?
Yeah, and partly because I self-host. Like I said, I'm a nut. I self-host all my stuff, so I'm using a WordPress plugin. So it's like, here's how many downloads. I'm like, that's not even close to being useful. So I wanted to get some sense of some actual listens, and the OP3 tries to, it's not IAB compliant, but it tries to give you some sanity around actual numbers that have meaning. So I did it partly because I wanted some numbers for the shows, but also I like the idea that my show is like contributing to the global odometer. So there are people who do research and look at because you can go across all the OP3 statistics, and it's like there's enough podcasters. You're like, you can see listening trends, you can see where people are. So I also like the balance of, I get some free statistics, and I'm literally helping the podcast industry. Like, we don't expect the new people to even know what OP3 is. We could talk about it, but for people who are ahead of the curve, there's a little field here, and I can type in my OP3 prefix, and boop, off I go. So I like, that's my way of like giving back. I feel like I know what that is. I feel like I should go to the effort of putting it in there and show this is how it kind of shows how you do it. Like, how often does Craig actually publish? OP3 knows. The answer is whenever I feel like it. There's no rhyme or reason, except for Little Box of Quotes, which just goes out every day at 1 a.m. via automation.
Okay, for Little Box of Quotes, how far out are you recording?
It's variable. I'm generally 3 weeks out.
Wow. Okay.
But I do them in batches, at least a batch of 7. Often I will do a batch of 14 or 21. I come from like the behind the curtain internet nerd programming side of the world. So I build a lot of tooling. So a lot of the things I do, it's like, I wrote software that helps me do that. So I have a way that the email list, so it's kind of clever. The email that goes out for the mailing list is the same quote as the podcast that drops. And they're done from different things. So I have a piece of software which looks at my collection of quotes and pre-picks a week at a time. So it's usually on Friday. It'll decide, maybe we should do some more, Craig. So it'll pull 7. It emails me. And it's like, here's the next 7 that I'm going to put to the email list. Wow. Get off your lazy butt and go make 7 more podcast episodes and schedule them. So that tool, I can kick it in advance. I was just traveling for a week or 2. So I'm like, I better do some homework. So I kicked like 4 extra weeks out. And then I put on my podcasting hat, and maybe it took me an hour. I did 28 or whatever, they're super short, 28 little episodes, and then I got to upload them and it, mix them down, blah, blah, blah. But I scheduled them, and then it just like clockwork, the software, does the deed. So I enjoy it. I don't listen to my own show, the audio, but I do read my own daily quote thing because I like to be reminded of all the quotes.
Good. All right.
Told you I was crazy.
See, one of my quotes that I'm using quite often right now is Theodore Roosevelt. Do what you can with what you have, where you are. And I'm using that for podcasting. And I'm thinking it's like a 3-pronged approach. Yeah. And you need all 3 like a stool. Do what you can. So what can you do as a podcaster? Just do that. Where you are. So you don't need any more knowledge. You're good. Lean learning. Right? You got enough. Let's just keep going. Do what you can with what you have, where you are. Where you are right now. Yeah. You're not lacking in anything. If all you have is a phone, you can be a podcaster and get going. Just get going. The whole thing. You can start from there and just build up over time instead of trying to have everything solved before you approach the mic, right? Just keep going.
The other thing that people they know this, but they don't really pay attention to this is you can also stop. You can change the name of your show. You can be like, I did, 6 episodes of that, and I changed my mind. I don't want to do that. That's a lot of work. You can delete it, or you just change the name of the show and keep going if you don't want to have people fall out, who've subscribed. There's probably a discussion about whether or not that's nice to people. Like just completely change the whole show and it's still in your podcast player. But yeah, there are a lot of people who feel like, oh, I started, I have to go forever. It's like, forever? Forever's a long time. And maybe you should think about, taking, I know someone who takes every summer off, she just like stops for 8-10 weeks and just like, I'm not,
I'm done.
Seasons or the way I do it is just like, when I have to publish an episode, that's when they go out. Like when I get a guest, I'm like, this guest is awesome. I need to record the thing and then I'm going to ship it. Sometimes if I do like more than one in a week, then to be nice, I like hold them. I do all the work and I hit all the buttons and then it's scheduled. Just put them so people don't get like, I've had people complain. They open their player and they're like, dude, I got like 5 episodes in 2 days. Knock it off. Like, sorry. Embarrassment of riches.
There you go. I like it. I would love to have you back in the future again, Craig. I think like we've just kind of hit on a couple things today and I'm sure we could talk about all kinds of stuff on this. But anyway, I'm just going to keep the door open for you because anytime I come across a great podcaster that I admire and I listen to, the idea of having them back in the future would be great as well.
Can I throw one? This is not a plug. This is a book that I read called Out on the Wire by Jessica Abel, Abel. It's a graphic novel. I went on a graphic novel tangent recently, and it's got an orange cover, and I forget why she did what she did, but she wound up interviewing like all of the podcasting greats. And she put together a companion podcast which talks about how to like make a show. It's really great because when you listen to the show, it's just all the famous people going, yeah, we don't know what we're doing. This is how we do it. And we kind of go like, like it fixed my imposter syndrome. I was like, well, if that's the chaos that they consider great, like maybe they have a team and they go iterations, but just to hear them talk about process, the people that she interviewed, she was writing the book as a graphic novel. The book is great. And then all the people that she interviewed, so it's a lot of crap tape. It's like, like a cassette recorder in a loud cafeteria. And she was just recording material to write the book. But then afterwards, she made podcast episodes out of them. So it's a really great show. It's ancient, but it's like frozen in time. And that's a fun one because I really enjoyed listening to all these people like, oh, that's this person, that's that person, and hearing them talk about, well, here's how I do it. This is great. So that's a good one. And not often mentioned, Out on the Wire. And it means out on the wire, not like we published it. It's out on the digital wires, like it's shipped. She means out on the wire, like on a tightrope between buildings with the balance, like go out on the wire and ship the thing and do the work. It's a really great. So I like it. I like to talk about it because it's a fun book.
It's good. You go out and keep your balance too, right?
Keep your balance.
There you go.
Take the next step. If you ever saw the old movie Man on a Wire, walking between the World Trade Centers, it's like the idea of like, don't look down, just keep walking.
There you go. Okay. That sounds like podcasting. I like that. That's good.
What could possibly go wrong?
What could go wrong? Craig, again, where do we go? I know you're really good at social media and promoting your podcast and all these things. It works because I found you. But anyway, where would you send people to all 4 of these shows we can go listen to? I'll have links, obviously.
Okay.
Where's the starting point for a new person coming to see Craig?
That's a really good question. I would say the best place to find information about me personally is to go to my name. It's Craig, C-R-A-I-G, Constantine.com. But that site is about like me and like what I'm doing personally. So if you're looking for a particular show, just search for the names. It's either Pod Talk, one word, smashed together, P-O-D-T-A, okay, or Movers Mindset, 2 words, no apostrophe. Just search for those 2 shows anywhere you normally listen. And you'll be able to find those. And all those shows have show notes, which would lead you back to me. So if you're like on one and you're trying to find the other, you can find it. I have a lot of web stuff. So I would say, go to Pod Talk in your player and just grab an episode and listen. Maybe you want to recommend one?
You had some guests on your show that I had on my show, and I'm like, well, this is great.
Yeah.
So I love when I see that happening. I'm like, oh, we're on the same wavelength.
I'm just teasing. You don't have to come up with one, but I would just say, go listen to an episode of Pod Talk. They're like 40 minutes long, and there's some really fun ones. I always tell people when you're trying a new show, don't listen to the latest one just because it's new. Actually look for something that catches your eye. Like scroll through, find a title that catches your eye or a word that catches your eye, and just start there. And these are like books, people. You don't have to finish them. Us podcasters, we're not like, you quit at 7 minutes. No, I appreciate you listening to 6 minutes. So I would just say dive into Pod Talk. Because people listening are podcasters. Go to Pod Talk, pick an episode, and go there. Okay,
before I let you go, you just said look for a title that catches your eye. What catches your eye in a title? Right.
Words. And I don't mean that tritely. I mean like I do not want, search engine optimized stuff explanation. So I go to the crazy lengths of all the episodes of Pod Talk are a single word, like presence with, and then a person's name. So it'd be like presence with John Doe. And that's because I like shows where I can scroll through and see what's going on. I like when the first sentence in the show tells me what's on the tin. I like my cans of tuna to say tuna on them. None of this, like, don't make me read 7 pages to figure out what the show was about. I'm trying to decide what I want to listen. Because podcasting, people who are podcasters, our listeners do not want to change mediums. If they're listening to your show, they're not a book reader. They're not going to read 9,000 pages of show notes. They want to listen to the show, right? Mm-hmm. And people like you who switched and like tracked me down, those people, they will find you. You do not need to like, they'll be like, I'm finding this human. So I'm looking for individual words. I like when things are very clear. I like active voice. I like when, somebody tells me what they're going to tell me, not like, are you wondering how to do it? Like, oh no, I am not wondering. No. Skip, that kind of thing. No clickbait.
Yeah, you had Cassian on, and it's Faith with Cassian. Oh, so I've had her on. She's amazingly fun to talk to.
That was
great. And then I saw with Vince, engagement with Vince Quinn, another great podcaster out there doing great stuff.
Vince and I keep saying we have to do something. Yeah. We're like, we keep doing these Zoom calls, and we're like, all right, we got to figure out what it is, the thing that we're doing here, because we're not quite sure.
It's a great strategy, Craig, for the titling of your episodes. I like it. And now that you're pointing it out, I'm scrolling through on my phone, and I see it. Yeah, that's really cool.
It takes a lot of work. Not a lot, but you have this like yet another thing. And I often think about, I know Apple says, don't put numbers in your titles, but I do like when there are numbers in the titles, when somebody says, go look up episode 742. Okay, that show needs numbers. But in shows like mine, you can just look for a word. I tell people, go look for Smith or go look for cash in, and it's easy enough to find.
Smart. Craig, thank you so much for saying yes to agreeing to come on this show. And again, as a listener of your show, I just want to say thank you. I have so many things to go listen to, but I just want to say thanks for creating great content, hosting these great interviews and conversations, as you like to say, which I totally agree with. And thanks for showing up for us as your community. I really appreciate you.
It's my pleasure. I do what I can. Terrific. Thanks.
Excellent. Everyone, go grab all of Craig's stuff in the show notes. I'll have links to all of his shows so you don't forget any of them. And we'll have a link to the book, again, out on the wire, and that as well. Lots of good stuff. Create a process for your show. Have a conversation over an interview. And when you want to talk podcasting, go check out Craig's Pod Talk. There you go. Craig, how was that?
Terrific. I don't love it when I don't have to do that.
There you go. Thanks, Craig. Appreciate it. Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast all the way through to the end. I love having these great guest co-hosts on the show to share their podcasts with you. You have some homework to do. And what I'm asking of you is to go check out our featured guest co-host today. Go over and listen to their podcast. The links are always in the show notes. And I'd love for you to go and give them your love and support. And I think if we can all do that for each other, podcasting will be a lot more fun for all of us. So it's time to do what you've asked others to do for you. It's time to do for this guest co-host. Links in the show notes. Go over and check out their show and leave them a review. Do the follow. Go listen to their episodes in full, the entirety of an episode, which again shows to the apps that it's a good podcast. Because you're going there and you're staying to the end. It's probably one of the best ways you can help a podcaster grow their audience and be shown to more people is by simply going and listening wherever you listen to the very end, like you're doing right now here. This is the perfect way to signal to wherever you're listening on, this is a podcast worth promoting. And all of the apps want you to stay on as long as possible. So go over and listen to our guest co-host episode and leave them some feedback. If they have a buy me a coffee, send them a coffee. If they have a speak pipe, send them a voice message. If they have an email, send them an email. If they're on Instagram, send them a direct message. Do something to support our guest co-hosts. They've given up their time to be here with you, to be here with me, and we can give that back to them with time and attention, our love, our support. Thank you for doing all that for me as well. Here on the How to Podcast series, we'll talk to you soon for our next episode.